So let me ask you this. Let's pretend that we have the right list, and let's pretend that our people are competent enough to be on the phone. I've also noticed there seems to be some resistance, and this could be generational, meaning the younger generation of salespeople versus somebody, let's say, over the age of 45 that's still selling, that they're resistant to even pick up the phone. They'd rather email or text. So does email fit into this? Is it a way of reaching out to people? Is it kind of the new way of contacting people? Is it as effective as being on the phone?
Email is certainly a part of reaching out to prospects. It's a very important part of reaching out to prospects. From the email, you're going to go to a telephone conversation. Everything leads to a conversation on the phone. I think you're right that that's something that people today don't understand. But the likelihood of sending an email to a prospect who then responds saying, yes, I'm going to hire you, and just doing that cold and having that happen, that's not a likely scenario. What you're trying to do is generate an in-depth conversation. And so even if you're using email, which you should be using, or social media, which you should be using, the idea is to get that prospect into a conversation.
Get them engaged.
Get them engaged. And that's a big mistake that I see with social media. The idea with social media is to get prospects out of social media.
I'm a big movie buff, and one of the movies I like is The Godfather. And one time I had a chance to buy the script, the actual script they used in the movie. So I turned the movie on, right? And I have the script in front of me. And I'm reading the script and watching that movie and listening to it. And this is going to sound like, okay, gosh, you didn't know this. But everything that's on that script is obviously verbatim on the movie. Every pause, and if you've seen the movie, obviously there's a lot of great actors in there. And you start to believe that those actors really are those characters. What I took away from that is these people are following the script and they make it sound so natural. It's part of the, Al Pacino playing Michael Corleone just appeared to be so natural. Yet everything he said is scripted out and it's right in front of you. But when we go to sales professionals and then say, hey, professional people have scripts, there's a lot of resistance to this. Well, I don't want to sound canned. I don't want to do this. I really can't follow a script. I'm more of a wing it type person. So what do you say to our sales professionals that, hey, you know what? In most professions, you're following a script, and probably to some extent, they're following the script and don't even know it.
Exactly, Jim. They are following a script, and they don't even know it. And
it may not be a good script, by the way.
Exactly. The question is not, should I use the script? The question is, does my script work?
Oh, okay.
And again, if people are screaming at you and hanging up the phone, your script doesn't work.
But do you think, Wendy, how do you... Okay, it's obvious when you say that. When you're working with somebody, how do you get them to realize that they actually are using the script, and their script probably, quite honestly, isn't that good? How do you get them to realize that?
Well, step one is I'll say to my client that is resistant to using a script, do you have an elevator speech? How do you usually introduce yourself? And they'll tell me. That's a script. I'll ask them, do you have certain questions that you hear over and over again? And they'll say, yeah, and they'll tell me. And I'll say, well, how do you answer those questions? And they'll tell me. And I'll say to them, well, that's a script. Are there certain objections that you hear over and over again? And they'll say, yes. And I'll say, well, how do you respond to those objections? And they'll tell me. And I'll say, that's a script. Your script doesn't have to be written down. If you're pretty much saying the same thing over and over and over again, that's a script. All salespeople use script. So the issue is really, does what you are saying when you introduce yourself to a prospect, does that catch their attention, and are they willing to engage with you or not? If they ask you a question or have an objection, are you able to answer it in such a way that it moves the conversation forward, or Does the prospect say, I'm not interested, and hang up?